Hey, what's up, world? Zach here with another quick video. These videos on the channel aren't meant to be long, in-depth movies for you. They're meant to be quick, 5 to 10, maybe a 15-minute quick motivational points, maybe your story thrown in, for you to be able to take real quick, listen to real quick, take action on it, and change your life, right? Because that's how we really change our life, is in little tiny bits, right? We find one thing that we can hang on to, we repeat it over and over and over, we get the right message in our head, and eventually we get everything figured out. Now, this video comes for you from a podcast I listened to today. It was this lady talking about how to basically be an awakened parent, right? And it was about how we as parents basically have our parents in us, which have their parents in them, which have their parents in them. So we're parenting from a place that was 100 years ago, right? Which isn't the world today. Great podcast. I'll actually link into it in the comments below. But so basically, she went into the story about this guy who was poor, and everybody thought, oh, poor him, it's bad, he doesn't have any money. Then he won the lottery, and everybody's like, oh, look, this lottery was great.
A man once won a lottery. He was so excited. He bought himself a Ferrari. Everyone around him said, you're so lucky. Who wins the lotto? You're so lucky. Women began swarming around him. Men began admiring him because now he was driving in a fancy Ferrari. One day he was driving, just innocuously, not so show-offy, but then he fell into an accident. He had to be taken to the hospital. Now people around him began saying, oh, this is not such a good thing. Or maybe, if you hadn't won the lotto, you wouldn't have been in the Ferrari, and now you wouldn't be in the hospital. But then that night when he was in the hospital, there was a strong gale of gusty wind, tornado-like, and it came through his hospital window, shattered it, and cut him in pieces. But then, it was a bad thing, but then it was so good because he was in the hospital. So he was saved. And then, everyone began telling him that, thank goodness, actually, you were in the accident with the Ferrari and ended up in this hospital because this person, this doctor who works here is really a specialist in sewing up the skin beautifully. And when he was introduced to her, she became the love of his life. But then on the way out of the hospital, do you want me to continue?
That's good, right? You could tell this story again and again and again and again and again and again and again. The point is when you're in life, things are neither good nor bad, right? The good can be bad and the bad can be good. It's all about your perception on how it works. And I went through this multiple times in my life, but the one that I've talked about once or twice on the site that I really want to talk to you about more, because as I go through my life, go through my journey, talk to more men, talk to more dads, talk to more moms and everything else, you realize that it happens more common than you think. And that's the story of when my wife and I had a miscarriage with our first pregnancy. And I remember being so excited. It was a couple days before my birthday, and got home from work. My wife made me dinner, and she was real fidgety, right? I couldn't really figure out why, but she was kind of just fidgety. And we sat down to eat, and she goes, oh, I'll be right back, and got up and went downstairs. And I was like, what the F is going on? Like, I just want to eat. It's a long day at work, right? So she comes back up with a birthday present. And she goes, oh, I got you your birthday present. I want you to open it early. And I'm like, can we eat first? And she very sadly said, okay, fine. So I turned to eat, and she goes, no, open it now. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I don't even know. So she had it in front of me. I took out tissue paper, and there was 2 bombers in there, 2 20-ounce beers. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I told my wife, I'm done drinking unless there's a reason to celebrate, right? So why the heck is she getting beers for my birthday? Pull out the card, open up the card, and there was 2 positive pregnancy tests. We got pregnant the first month we tried, which I wasn't expecting, but I guess pat on my back, right? And I was elated. I was actually a little disappointed that I was such a to my wife, but I was very elated. I was very excited, and proceeded to have to wait the next 6 weeks for, actually more than that. Yeah, 6 weeks. It was that 10 weeks. I went to 10 weeks for our ultrasound, right? Take the day off of work, would go. I'm all excited. It's my first kid, my first, experience with the sonogram. And doctor comes in, I'm sitting in the chair next to my wife, and I get all excited, and she's setting it, everything's up, and I expect the screen to come on, and this, little tiny peanut of a thing come on, and listen to that heartbeat and everything else. And I sat there and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And then the doctor stopped the sonogram and said the words that, again, kind of probably will haunt me for the rest of my life. She goes, I'm so sorry, I think you're having a miscarriage, Robin. And it turns out the baby was measuring 6 weeks. We were at 10 weeks. There was no heartbeat. it happens. Trust me, it happens, right? But we left there very disappointed, very distraught. I remember leaving the office, and my wife, who's the strongest person I know, right? I put my arm around her. She looked at me, and her eyes, she wasn't going to cry, but her eyes were welling up in tears. So we get home. She goes to see some friends, right? She's always had a lunch plan with these friends. She goes see him. I go down to my office to work, put my headphones on, and for some reason, this song by Swedish House Mafia, I think it's called Don't Worry Child, came on, where it literally was screaming, don't you worry child, heaven's got a plan for you. And completely lost it at that point. Completely hands in my, face in my hands, just was like crying. Like my wife doesn't drink, right? She doesn't smoke. She doesn't even intake caffeine, right? We waited specifically for this time in our life to have a baby. So why are we the ones who waited until we were financially stable, waited till we had the house, right? We were healthy, we were fit, we were ready to go. Why are we the ones that this is going through? Why there's crackheads out there, there's deadbeat dads having babies. Why am I the one suffering here? And it took me through a really dark time, probably, well, I know 2 months, right? It took us about 2 months to get pregnant again, and where I thought this is the most unfair thing in the entire world. And, you know, the time heals all, right? So as time went on, things got a little bit better, more motivated. But I mean, it took us through a horrible point. I got a promotion and a raise at work, which I was actually very disappointed in because I thought I should have made more. It was an amazing raise, but I was pissed. I was sad because this took me in a moment where everything in my life was bad. Everything in my life was bad. And everything that happened that was good, I viewed it. My perception of it was bad, right? And then August 5th, 2014. Right, we got pregnant again. Everything was fine. That was only the miscarriage we had. We're blessed to only have one miscarriage. I know people that have suffered through way more. But like, we had our son, and I have a picture of it that I'll throw up in the video. It just probably appear right now. And it was my son, the very first picture I took of my son, and he's, you know, this is minutes after his birth. He's basically eyes open, looking right at me, like saying, "See, Dad, this is the plan. This has always been the plan. You need to be here." And it kind of really shook me, and it still shakes me to this day, where I've got 2 boys now, Mason and Jackson. They're 5 and 2.5, the loves of my life. And if that first miscarriage came to fruition, my life today wouldn't be what it is. I wouldn't have the boys. I wouldn't even think twice about it, right? So to look back now, to reflect back and say, that was bad, but now it's good, right? And you could flip it. Like, you could say, that was good. Like, that miscarriage was the best thing that ever happened to me because it put me here now in this moment, right? And when you're in that darkness, right, when you're in that cloud of despair and devastation, it's so hard to look otherwise, right? It's so hard to look otherwise. But I'm telling you, everything happens for a reason, right? If we can take a step back and we can say, where's the good in this? It's hard to, when you're in that darkness, to think anything else, right? But there's always sunshine behind rain clouds, right? Because it's cloudy, because it's raining, that doesn't mean the sun doesn't shine, okay? There's always blue sky out there, and there's always sunshine, okay? So I'm not telling you to, when bad things happen, to sit back and say, well, where's the good? I shouldn't mourn. No, you should mourn, right? Mourning, pissed offness, grievance, like, these are humans' emotions. Like, what we as humans need to be able to feel these emotions, but you can't get stuck on it, right? Because if you get stuck on it and you replay that bad moment again and again and again and again and again, your life is constantly going to follow what you think about, right? So the one thing, and there's a blog post, again, I'll link to it in here as well, that I wrote, that in as a postscript, I said to the dads that go through miscarriage, like, grieve, right? Grieve, but know that there's something better on the other side. Like, even if you're sitting there struggling, maybe that's just what you're meant to do, right? And it's that surrender to the world, to the universe, to God, whatever you want to call it, right? It's the same power, but not viewing everything that's bad as bad, and also not viewing everything that's good as good, right? It's good to you, but it might not be good to somebody else. It's all perception, right? So takeaway point of the video is, when you are down in the depths of that darkness, in the depths of those clouds, do what you can to take a step back, like, remove yourself from that situation and say, where's the good, right? What is coming my way? And if you can't see it, surrender, right? For those that are religious, you can't see, like, put your hands up and say, God, I know there's good here. Where is it? Help me find it, right? Like, I call my God the universe, right? The universe, guide me to a way that's good, okay? I said that over and over and over and over again those past few months after our first miscarriage, because I was such in a dark place. I kept throwing my hands up like, universe, I don't know what's going on here, but can you please show me? And it showed me on that day when my other son was born. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. When you're in the depths of that darkness, it's so hard to look up and try to find that light. But that light is there 100% of the time. And it's knowing that constantly. It's knowing that religiously. It's having that belief system that no matter what happens in your life, there's always that light. And that's the takeaway point, right? Is no matter what you're doing, find that light and share that light with others, right? If you have people going through dark times, like especially around miscarriages, nobody talks about it. It's so common in new parents, but nobody talks about it, okay? If you hear someone talk about it, tell them that. Tell them that, I know that sucks right now, but there's probably better things in your future. Like, I know it sucks, and I know it sounds like, well, you're just trying to put rose-colored glasses on. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but like, heaven forbid that we try to believe that in a time of bad, there's always good in the world, right? Heaven forbid we look at the world and say, you know what? It really sucks out here. I really am in a crappy place of life, but there's some good here. Let's find some good. Let's do some good, okay? I really think if the world did that more, if we really looked at dark times, if we looked at dark clouds rolling in and said, you know what? There's still sun out there. Let's do this. There's still sun. More people would be in places where they would be happy. We would see less suicides. We would see less depression. We would see less anxiety. Instead of this, here comes this dark cloud, and everybody's like, right? Like, go heavy on positivity, okay? And look, again, I know it's hard, right? Death, despair, it's all real, right? We all go through some heavy shit, but it's peaks and valleys. Life's peaks and valleys. When you're in that valley, no, there's that peak. And make sure you subscribe, and hopefully we'll connect soon.